Hey y'all, good morning. I'm about to get ready to fix my macaroni and cheese to take to my nephew's graduation party. I always make the macaroni and cheese for all of our family gatherings, and my nephews just love it. They beg for it every time. And y'all, it's so simple. And I'm sorry I don't have time to actually cook it for y'all, but I'm in a hurry. I've run out of time and I've still got to get ready for the party. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. I've got the recipe right here. Um, the recipe is for what you use is however much pasta you use, that's how much cheese you use. So if you use 16 ounces of pasta, you use 16 ounces of Velveeta. And that's what the recipe calls for, 16 ounces. And when I just cook it for the three of us, I break it down into 8 ounces and cut that in half. But for my family gatherings, I actually double it and use 32 ounces. So that's what we're doing today. But for a regular, and I use this big old pan for the 32 ounces, and I just use a regular 9 by 13 for 16 ounces. I hope that's not too confusing. And I do use the foil pans because after I cook the sauce and cook the noodles, I let it stay hot. I cover it with foil, keep it in the foil pans to keep it hot, and the cheese sauce will thicken as it sits. So, a regular recipe is 16 ounces of pasta, 16 ounces of Velveeta, 1 stick of butter, 1.5 cups of milk, a half a cup of heavy cream, a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of pepper. And then I use shredded cheese to cover the top. So today we're doubling. So I've got my 32 ounces of macaroni, 32 ounces of cheese, and then I'll double everything else. And what I do is I get the noodles boiling in the water. While those are boiling, I make my sauce. And what I do is I start melting the butter in the pan or in the pot, and then I pour in the milk and heavy cream and let that get combined. And then I break up the Velveeta and start melting it in. And once everything's melted and it's creamy smooth, I add in the salt and pepper and whisk that in. So once everything is done, I pour the noodles into the pan, and then I pour the sauce over the noodles, stir it up, make sure it's all mixed together. I spread some shredded cheese over the top of it, cover it with foil, and let it sit until it's time to eat. So even if it's like 1 to 2 hours, that's enough. Or it could be as little as 30 minutes and the sauce will thicken. Another thing about this recipe is if you've ever had homemade macaroni and cheese, the kind you may get at a restaurant that's kind of crumbly. I can't really describe it, but it's just that crumbly homemade texture of mac and cheese. If you know what I'm talking about, you can do that with this recipe. You do everything exactly the same, but you put it in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. And that'll give it that crumbly, homemade texture. So that's what I love about this recipe. I absolutely love it. And if you want to screenshot it, here's the recipe. I've got the 16 ounces on one side and the 8 ounces on the other. And then if I want to make more, I just double it to 32 ounces. So there is the ingredients. And if you want to cook it, that's the cook time. And then, oh, sorry, hold on. And then there are the instructions. Oops, I'm trying to hold that still. Sorry, there's a stain on my recipe card. I just laid it down and something had leaked, so it got on it. But that's how recipe cards are supposed to look, right? It can tell you, you can tell you've been cooking with it, right? So anyway, that is my mac and cheese, and I'm about to get started on it. So I hope y'all have a great day, and I will talk to you on the next video. Bye, guys. Okay, guys, here are the noodles in the pan, and I've already done the sauce, and it's supposed to be this liquidy. I promise it's going to thicken up. So I'm about to pour it over the noodles. I've just poured it in, and now I'm making sure it's all mixed together. See, and you can tell it's already starting to thicken up, and then the more it sits. But then even when it's going to stay hot in this full pan, so even when you get into it later, it's going to still be thick and creamy. It's so good, y'all. It is so good. And the shredded cheese I'm going to put on top, of course, you know, the reason I'm using the Mexican style is because that's all I had in my refrigerator. But it doesn't have any seasoning in it, so it's just cheese. So I usually use Colby Jack or cheddar, but really it doesn't matter. It's going to taste like cheese. So I'm fixing to put this on top. And here it is. We have the cheese on top, and I'm going to cover it with foil, and while it stays hot in this pan, that cheese is going to melt, so you don't have to worry about melting the cheese. And again, if you want more of that homemade crumbly texture, you're going to put this straight in the oven for 45 minutes on 350. But my family likes the more creamy texture, so I just let this stay hot and get thick, and it is so good. I'll try to put a picture of the finished when we spoon it out at the end of this video, but other than that, bon appetit, guys.